The red sun of Kepler 442b cast long shadows across the mining settlement as Dong-Soo Kim walked through the dusty streets. He had been the colony administrator for 8 years now, and he knew every face in the small human town. 50,000 people called this place home, working hard to dig rare metals from the rocky ground. Dong-Soo stopped at the school playground where children laughed and played. Among them was 8-year-old Bo-Ram Lee, her black hair shining in the alien sunlight. She was building something with blocks, her tongue sticking out in concentration like her father Chang Ho did when he worked in the mines. "What are you making, Bo-Ram?" Dong-Soo asked, kneeling down beside her. "A spaceship," she said proudly. "One day I want to fly to Earth and see the blue sky Mama tells me about." Dong-Soo smiled, but inside he felt worried. Today was tribute day. The Vorthak would come for their payment, and the settlement was running short on materials. Equipment had broken down last month, and they could not meet the full quota. The Vorthak hegemony ruled 14 star systems with an iron fist. For 300 years, they had demanded tribute from weaker species. Their ships were massive things made of living crystal that could heal from damage. Their soldiers wore thick shells that could stop plasma fire. Worst of all, they shared one mind that made them fight as perfectly as machines. Humans had learned to stay quiet and pay what was asked. It was better than fighting a war they could not win. At least that was what everyone believed. Hana Park wiped sweat from her forehead as she worked in the engineering bay. She was the colony's best engineer, always fixing broken equipment and finding new ways to make things work. But Hana had secrets. Deep in the underground workshops, she had been building things the Vorthak would not like. Defense systems, weapons, things that could hurt the crystal ships if the time ever came. "Keep it hidden," she whispered to her assistant as they covered the prototype railgun with spare parts. "Not yet. We are not ready yet." The ground shook as the Vorthak ship landed outside the settlement. It was a beautiful and terrible thing, like a giant crystal flower with edges sharp enough to cut space itself. The ship was 3 times bigger than any human vessel, and it hummed with alien power. Overlord Krexthul emerged from the ship with 20 warriors behind him. He stood 8 feet tall on 6 legs, his shell black and shining. His eyes were like dark gems that seemed to look right through everything. When he spoke, his voice came from all his warriors at once, a creepy echo that made humans step back in fear. "Tribute time," Krexthul said in broken human language. "Where is payment?" Dong-Soo walked forward with his hands empty and open. He had done this many times before, but today felt different. Today felt dangerous. "Honored Overlord," Dong-Soo said, bowing low. "We have most of the tribute ready, but our equipment failed last month. We are 12% short of the full amount." The silence that followed was deadly. All 20 Vorthak warriors turned their gem-like eyes toward Dong-Soo at the same time. In their shared mind, they spoke without words, deciding his fate in seconds. "Short payment is rebellion," Krexthul said slowly. "Rebellion must be punished." "Please," Dong-Soo said quickly. "We can make up the difference next month. We are loyal. We always pay what we owe." But Krexthul was not listening. In Vorthak culture, any shortfall meant the subject species was testing them. It meant they thought they could get away with less tribute. This could not be allowed. 10 must die, Krexthul announced. "Choose 10 or we choose 20. The words hit the crowd like a physical blow. Parents grabbed their children. Workers backed away from the alien soldiers. Dong-Soo felt his world spinning. In all his years as administrator, the Vorthak had never killed anyone here. They had always taken their tribute and left. "Please, there must be another way," Dong-Soo begged. "Take more metal next month. Take our equipment. Take anything but lives." 10 die now, Krexthul repeated. "You choose or we choose more." With shaking hands, Dong-Soo looked at his people. How could he pick who would die? How could he choose which families would lose someone forever? But if he did not choose, even more would die. The selection took an hour. Dong-Soo picked the oldest and the sick, those who volunteered to save others. But when they brought the 10 forward, Krexthul shook his massive head. "Not enough fear," the Overlord said. "Fear teaches better lessons." Without warning, Vorthak warriors moved into the crowd. They grabbed people at random, pushing aside Dong-Soo's chosen victims. They took the young and healthy. They took parents. They took Chang Ho Lee's little daughter Bo-Ram as she tried to run back to the school. "No," Chang Ho screamed, fighting against the warriors who held him back. "Take me instead. She is just a child." But the Vorthak did not care about human ideas of mercy. To them, the young died as easily as the old. Maybe easier because it hurt the survivors more. They lined up the 10 humans in the town square. Boram stood in the middle, her small hand holding the hand of the woman next to her. She was scared but trying to be brave, just like her parents had taught her. "This is broadcast to all worlds," Krextel announced as floating cameras surrounded the execution site. "All subjects will see what happens to those who give short tribute." Across the hegemony's networks, millions of beings would watch. They would see what happened when anyone dared to give the Vorthak less than they demanded. The energy weapons powered up with a high whining sound. Boram looked directly into the nearest camera, her young face calm despite her fear. "Tell Mama I tried to be brave," she said in clear, simple words. The weapons fired. 10 lives ended in a flash of blue light. The Vorthak warriors stepped over the bodies without a second look. "Next tribute will be full amount," Krextel said to Dongsu, "plus 20% extra for the trouble today." The crystal ship lifted off, leaving behind a colony in shock and grief. Chang Ho Li knelt beside his daughter's body, his strong miner's hands shaking as he held her small form. None of the Vorthak knew that hidden cameras had recorded everything. None of them realized that Boram's final words would travel faster than their ship, reaching human space within hours. None of them understood that they had just made the biggest mistake in their 300-year reign. In the darkness between stars, a human ship received the transmission. Admiral Ji Hai Cho watched the execution footage with cold, calculating eyes. Around her, the crew of the stealth ship Soul's Vengeance worked in deadly silence. The Vorthak thought they were untouchable. They thought humans were weak prey to be used and discarded. They thought killing a child would teach a lesson about fear. They were about to learn how wrong they were about everything. Admiral Ji Hai Cho stood in the command center of the Soul's Vengeance, watching the execution footage for the 5th time. The ship hung silent in an asteroid field, hidden from Vorthak sensors by technology the aliens did not know humans possessed. Her crew worked around her in deadly quiet, each person understanding what they had just witnessed. "Run it again," Ji Hai said softly. The holographic display showed Boram Li's final moments once more. The little girl's brave words echoed through the command center. "Tell Mama I tried to be brave." "Admiral," said Commander Taejun Park, her second in command. "The entire fleet has received the transmission." "They are waiting for orders," Ji Hai nodded slowly. For 15 years she had commanded humanity's secret deep strike division, 12 ships that officially did not exist, crewed by people who had supposedly died in training accidents. Their job was to watch the Vorthak, learn their weaknesses, and prepare for the day when humanity would need to fight. That day had come. "Send a message to Earth," Ji Hai ordered. "Priority Alpha. Tell them the Vorthak just crossed the line we said they never could." Dr. Woojin Nam looked up from his research station where he had been studying Vorthak biology for 7 years. He was a thin man with gentle eyes, but his work dealt with finding ways to kill aliens efficiently. "Admiral," Woojin said quietly, "the xenobiology data confirms what we suspected. Their exoskeletons can stop energy weapons, but kinetic rounds punch right through. And their hive mind has a critical weakness." "Explain," Ji Hai said. "They share thoughts through biological transmitters in their shells. Kill the command nodes and the whole network crashes. Lower-ranked Vorthak become confused and slow without constant mental guidance." Ji Hai studied the biological charts on Woojin's screen. Red dots showed weak points in Vorthak anatomy. Blue lines traced their communication network. It was a map for genocide, prepared by a man who looked like he should be teaching children instead of planning alien deaths. "How many command nodes in a typical fleet?" she asked. 3 to 5 depending on size. "Always on the largest ships. Take them out first and the rest become easy targets." The transmission to Earth took 4 hours to reach the Sol system through quantum relays. When it arrived, it went directly to the highest levels of human government. President Su Young Kang received the message in her private office at 3 in the morning, Earth time. She was a small woman with steel-gray hair and eyes that had seen too much. For 20 years, she had guided humanity's secret military buildup while maintaining the pretense of weakness. Within an hour, the War Council assembled in the underground bunker beneath Geneva. General Min Ho-yoon arrived first, still wearing his civilian clothes. To the galaxy, he was a retired mining executive. In reality, he commanded the largest secret army in human history. Show me what we have, Su-young said without greeting. The holographic display filled with dots of light representing human military assets. Red dots showed official fleet units that other species knew about. Blue dots showed the real fleet, hidden in dead systems and asteroid fields across human space. 3,000 ships, Minho reported, 200 dreadnoughts, 50,000 Marines in powered armor, orbital bombardment platforms disguised as mining stations in 47 systems. Dr. Hae-jin Kwon, the chief military scientist, stepped forward. She was the brilliant mind behind humanity's secret weapons program. The kinetic bombardment system is ready, she said. We can hit any target in Vorthak space within 30 minutes. Our railgun technology gives us 3 times their effective range. What about their crystal ships? Asked Minister of Intelligence Kyung-soo Lee. Crystals are strong but brittle, Hee-jin replied. High-velocity tungsten rounds will shatter them like glass. We have been testing this for 5 years. The room fell silent as everyone studied the displays. Humanity had been preparing for this war since first contact with the Vorthak 50 years ago. Every ship, every weapon, every strategy had been designed around the day when the aliens would go too far. They killed a child, Su-young said quietly. On purpose. For show. It was always going to happen eventually, Minho said. The Vorthak see mercy as weakness. They would have kept pushing until we pushed back. A new transmission arrived from the Soul's Vengeance. Chang-ho Lee had requested passage to Earth, carrying his daughter's belongings and a message for human leadership. Bring him here, Su-young ordered. He deserves to see what happens next. Chang-ho Lee arrived on Earth 3 days later. He was a big man with calloused hands and hollow eyes. The grief had aged him 10 years in a week. He carried a small bag containing Boram's toys and drawings. The War Council met him in the same underground bunker. Chang-ho stood before the most powerful humans alive, holding his daughter's favorite stuffed animal. She wanted to see Earth's blue sky, he said simply. She made me promise to bring her here someday. Su-young felt tears in her eyes, but her voice remained steady. Tell us what you want, Mr. Lee. I want them to pay, Chang-ho said. Not just the ones who killed her. All of them. I want their empire to burn so no other father ever has to hold his dead child. That can be arranged, General Minho said quietly. The holographic display changed to show Operation Reckoning, humanity's plan for total war against the Vorthak. It was massive in scope, requiring perfect timing across 14 star systems. Simultaneous strikes, Minho explained. Hit every major Vorthak installation at once. Destroy their command structure before they can coordinate a response. How long? Su-young asked. The fleets are already moving into position. We can begin in 72 hours. Admiral Sung-ho Choi, commander of the official fleet, raised a concern. The other species will see us as aggressors. They might turn against humanity after we destroy the Vorthak. Let them try, said Minister Kyung-soo Lee. We have been recording Vorthak crimes for decades. Every execution, every atrocity, every act of casual cruelty. When this is over, the galaxy will understand why we did what we had to do. The vote was unanimous. Every member of the War Council agreed that the Vorthak hegemony had to die. Chang-ho Lee spoke one final time before leaving. My little girl said to tell her mama she tried to be brave. When you hit them, remember that a child died brave while grown aliens murdered her for sport. As the preparations began, humanity shed its disguise across known space. Hidden shipyards activated. Secret weapons came online. Soldiers who had trained in shadows stepped into the light. In the asteroid field, Admiral Ji-hai Cho received her final orders. The Soul's Vengeance and its sister ships would strike the Vorthak homeworld directly, targeting the heart of their empire. All stations, prepare for quantum jump, she ordered. Target Vorthak Prime, mission, total destruction of enemy command structure. Her crew moved with deadly precision. These were humans who had spent their entire careers preparing for this moment. They knew every Vorthak ship design, every weapon system, every tactical doctrine. The aliens thought they were untouchable because no one had ever hurt them before. They thought humans were weak because humans had always acted weak. They were about to learn the difference between weakness and patience. Across human space, 3,000 warships began their final approach to Vorthak territory. In 72 hours, the balance of power in the galaxy would shift forever. The Vorthak had killed a human child to send a message about fear. Humanity was about to send a much clearer message in return. The activation began at exactly 0600 hours Galactic Standard Time, across 50 hidden locations. Human shipyards that had been disguised as asteroid mining operations suddenly came alive. Massive doors opened in what the galaxy thought were empty rocks, revealing construction bays filled with warships. Captain Young-Sik Han stood on the bridge of the assault carrier Incheon Thunder as it emerged from its hiding place in the Kepler belt. Around him, 237 other ships of the Terran Navy's Third Fleet materialized from concealment. Each ship was larger and more advanced than anything humanity had officially possessed. "All ships report ready," announced Lieutenant Sora Bayek from her tactical station. She had spent 5 years studying every recorded Vorthak battle, learning their formations and weaknesses. Today that knowledge would be put to use. "Set course for Vorthak Prime," Young-Sik ordered. Maximum acceleration. The quantum drive engines hummed to life, technology reverse-engineered from crashed alien ships and improved by human engineering. The entire fleet vanished into quantum space, leaving no trace of their passage. Similar scenes played out across human territory. Admiral Dong-Hyun Park emerged from the Tau Ceti system with the First Fleet. Commander Yeon-Soo Kim led the Fifth Fleet from hiding places in the Centauri cluster. Everywhere, the real strength of humanity revealed itself. On Earth, President Su Young-Kang watched the deployment from the war room deep beneath Geneva. The holographic display showed 3,000 blue dots moving toward 14 red systems. It was the largest military operation in human history. "Phase 1 is complete," reported General Min Ho-yoon. "All fleets are en route to their targets. Estimated time to contact 4 hours, 17 minutes. What about the bombardment platforms?" So Young asked. Dr. Hee-jin Kwan smiled coldly. "Online and ready. The Vorthak have been paying us tribute for 20 years. Never knowing we use their rare metals to build weapons pointed at their heads." The orbital platforms had been humanity's greatest deception. Disguised as mining equipment and trade stations, they were actually massive railgun arrays capable of punching holes through crystal ship hulls from extreme range. Every major Vorthak world had several platforms positioned nearby, their true nature hidden by false identification signals. In the Vorthak home system, Overlord Krexthul was reviewing tribute reports when the first human ships appeared. His compound eyes registered the familiar sight of quantum emergence flashes, but something was wrong. These ships were not on any scheduled route. "Unknown vessels detected," reported Subcommander Thekvar through the HiveMind network. "Configuration does not match any known design." Krexthul accessed the shared knowledge of his race instantly. These ships were larger than anything in Vorthak records. Their hulls showed the primitive metal construction of younger species, but their quantum signatures indicated advanced drive technology. "Identify origin," Krexthul commanded. "Analysis suggests human construction," Thekvar replied uncertainly, "but impossible. Humans possess no ships of this size." That was when the first bombardment platform revealed itself. The structure that Vorthak records listed as Mining Platform Gamma 7 suddenly unfolded like a deadly flower, exposing massive railgun barrels that had been hidden inside fake cargo containers. The tungsten projectiles traveled at 30% of light speed. They struck the Vorthak defense station before any warning could be sent, punching through crystal armor like it was paper. The station exploded in a brilliant flash, its destruction transmitted across the HiveMind network in a wave of shock and confusion. "Humans," Krexthul whispered as understanding dawned. "The humans have been lying." Captain Young-Sik Han watched the destruction through his view screen. The Vorthak orbital defenses were already half destroyed by hidden bombardment platforms. His fleet emerged from quantum space in perfect formation, ready to finish what the platforms had started. "Launch all fighters," he ordered. "Target their command ships first." The space around Vorthak Prime erupted into battle. Human fighter squadrons, each pilot trained specifically for this moment, swept toward the crystalline Vorthak fleet. Their plasma cannons had been replaced with kinetic weapons that shattered alien hulls with every hit. Lieutenant Sora Bayek coordinated the attack from her tactical station. "Vorthak Formation Alpha 7, she announced. "They are trying to protect their command nodes by clustering smaller ships around them." "Standard response?" Young-Sik asked. "Negative. They have modified their formation since last month." "Recommend pattern Delta 9. Young-Sik nodded. This was why Sora had studied alien tactics so intensively. Human forces adapted faster than the hive mind could process new information. All ships patterned Delta 9, split formation and attack from multiple vectors. The human fleet broke apart like a flower opening, each group approaching the Vorthak forces from a different angle. The aliens, used to enemies who fought in predictable formations, struggled to coordinate their response through the hive mind network. On the surface of Vorthak Prime, Colonel Hyunwoo Kim led the first wave of marine landing craft through the atmosphere. His powered armor was a masterpiece of human engineering, incorporating technology stolen or reverse-engineered from a dozen alien species over 50 years. Touchdown in 30 seconds, his pilot announced. Defense grid is still active in this sector. Roger that, Hyunwoo replied. Remember the mission parameters. Military targets only. No civilian structures unless they shoot first. The landing craft touched down in the government district of the Vorthak capital. 200 human marines emerged into the alien city, their rail rifles already charged and ready. The Vorthak soldiers they encountered were confused and disorganized. Their hive-mind connection was being disrupted by the loss of command ships in orbit, leaving them to fight as individuals for the first time in their lives. They are not coordinating properly, reported Sergeant Mi Kyung-oh through the comm system. It's like fighting blind aliens, that was exactly what they were. Without their hive mind network, Vorthak warriors were reduced to acting on local information only. They could not share tactical data or coordinate complex maneuvers. Hyunwoo's Marines moved through the alien city like a precision instrument. Every street had been mapped from orbit. Every building had been analyzed for structural weaknesses. Every defensive position had been identified and targeted. Objective Alpha secured, came the report from Team 2. Government. Communication Center is ours mod objective. Beta secured, reported Team 5. Military command bunker neutralized, in orbit. The battle was turning decisively in humanity's favor. The Vorthak fleet, built around their assumed invincibility, crumbled under coordinated attacks by enemies who knew their every weakness. Admiral Ji Hai-cho watched from the Soul's Vengeance as the last Vorthak command ship tried to flee the system. Her ship moved to intercept, its stealth systems keeping it hidden until the final moment. Target their quantum drive, she ordered. I want them alive to answer questions. The railgun fired once. The Vorthak ship's drive exploded, stranding it in normal space. Human boarding teams would take control within the hour. Across 14 star systems, similar scenes played out. Human fleets that should not have existed destroyed Vorthak forces that thought themselves unbeatable. Orbital platforms that had masqueraded as mining equipment revealed their true purpose. Marine forces trained specifically for urban combat on alien worlds moved through Vorthak cities with devastating efficiency. The species that had ruled the Outer Rim for 3 centuries was learning what happened when humanity stopped pretending to be weak. On Kepler 442b, Chang Ho Lee stood in the settlement square where his daughter had died. Above him, Vorthak ships burned in the alien sky as human forces arrived to liberate the colony. Do you see, Boram? He whispered to the wind. They're paying for what they did to you. The message went out across the galaxy on every frequency and every language. The Vorthak hegemony was falling. The humans, who everyone thought were weak prey species, had revealed themselves as the apex predators they truly were. In the ruins of the Vorthak Command Center on their homeworld, General Min Ho-yoon stood among the wreckage of an empire. Around him, human soldiers maintained perfect discipline, their weapons ready but not aimed at the surviving aliens. Overlord Krexthul, Min Ho said to the captured alien leader, "You killed a human child to teach us about fear. Today you learned who should really be afraid. The Vorthak hegemony, masters of 14 star systems, conquerors of a dozen species, had fallen in a single day to enemies they thought were helpless. Humanity had revealed its true face at last." Fleet Admiral Tae-hyung Park stood in the command center of the massive dreadnought Terra's Wrath, watching the systematic destruction of the Vorthak military across 14 star systems. His tactical display showed the progress of Operation Reckoning in real time. Green indicators marked objectives completed. Red showed remaining enemy strongholds. The red was disappearing fast. Sigma Fleet reports Vorthak System 7 secured, announced his communications officer. All enemy ships destroyed or captured. Gamma Fleet has taken Vorthak System 12, came another report. Resistance was minimal after the command nodes fell. Tae-hyung nodded, his face showing no emotion. He had planned this operation for 10 years, running thousands of computer simulations to perfect every detail. The Vorthak were dying exactly as the computers had predicted. "What is our casualty count?" he asked. "Human losses: 37 ships damaged, 6 destroyed. Personnel casualties: 214 wounded, 18 killed." The numbers were remarkably low for an operation of this scale. Humanity had achieved strategic surprise so complete that the Vorthak barely had time to fight back before their command structure collapsed. Commander Yoonji, Shin moved through the corridors of the captured Vorthak heavy cruiser Dominance of Stars. Her boarding team wore specialized armor designed for fighting in alien atmospheres. Their weapons were loaded with non-lethal rounds for capturing prisoners. "Bridge secured," she reported through her helmet comm. "We have taken 12 Vorthak officers alive, including a sub-commander. The aliens were bound and sedated, their thick shells making conventional restraints useless." Human xenobiologists had developed specific methods for safely capturing Vorthak prisoners without permanent harm. "Any useful intelligence?" asked the ship's captain through the comm. "Yes, sir. Their computer cores are intact. We should be able to extract their operational databases and communication records. That intelligence would be crucial for what came next. Humanity needed proof of Vorthak crimes to justify their actions to the broader galaxy. The trial of the hegemony would be conducted in full view of every species. On Vorthak Prime, the Battle of the Fortress World entered its final phase. Wing Commander Dalsu Ryu led his fighter squadron through the last operational defense grid, his craft dancing between energy beams that could vaporize smaller ships. "Phoenix leader to all units," he announced over the squadron frequency. "Primary target is the planetary shield generator. Hit it hard and fast." His fighters moved in perfect synchronization, each pilot trained to execute complex maneuvers without conscious thought. They had practiced this attack run hundreds of times in simulation, using detailed intelligence gathered by spy satellites over many years. The Vorthak defense grid was impressive, but it had been designed to stop large ships, not agile fighters using hit-and-run tactics. Dalsu's squadron slipped through the defensive fire like ghosts, their kinetic torpedoes striking the shield generator with surgical precision. The planetary shield flickered and died. Immediately, human orbital bombardment platforms began targeting military installations across the planet's surface. Each shot was carefully aimed to destroy weapons and command centers while avoiding civilian areas. In the capital city, Colonel Hyun-woo Kim's Marines had secured the government district. The Vorthak civilians they encountered were not harmed, but they were clearly terrified. They had never seen their military defeated before. "Sir," reported Sergeant Mi Kyung-oh, "we have found the central archives. They contain detailed records of hegemony operations for the past 50 years. Copy everything," Hyun-woo ordered. "Every execution order, every tribute demand, every act of cruelty. The galaxy needs to see what kind of government we just destroyed." The Marines worked efficiently through the alien archives. Human translation algorithms had been studying Vorthak language for decades, making it possible to process their records quickly. What they found was worse than anyone had imagined. Intelligence Director Kyung-mi received the first data dumps from the captured archives while orbiting the Vorthak homeworld. She was a thin woman with sharp eyes who had spent 20 years collecting evidence of alien crimes against humanity and other species. "How bad is it?" asked General Min Ho-yoon through the secure channel. "Worse than we thought," Kyung-mi replied, scrolling through translated documents. "They have records of systematic genocide against 3 species, complete extermination programs, and the tribute worlds. They have been deliberately keeping them poor and weak. Any mention of the executions? Hundreds of them. They consider public killings to be educational demonstrations. They have been murdering civilians for sport for 3 centuries. General Minho stood in the ruins of the Vorthak High Command building, looking down at the captured overlord Krexthul. The alien leader was restrained but conscious, his gem-like eyes still defiant despite his defeat. "You will face trial for your crimes," Minho told him. "Every species you have oppressed will have the chance to testify against you." "Humans are weak," Krexthul replied in his mechanical voice. "You cannot maintain this victory. Others will crush you when they see your true strength." "Perhaps," Minho said calmly, "but first they will see the evidence of what you have done. Every murder, every act of cruelty, every innocent life you have taken, the galaxy will judge whether we were right to stop you. The broadcast began 18 hours after the last Vorthak stronghold fell. Every communications satellite in the Outer Rim carried the signal simultaneously. The message reached every inhabited world in 14 star systems at once. Kyung-mio's voice was clear and calm as she began the presentation. Citizens of the galaxy, today humanity has liberated the Outer Rim from 3 centuries of oppression. What follows is evidence of crimes committed by the Vorthak hegemony against innocent beings. The evidence was overwhelming. Video records of executions, including the murder of Boram Lee. Audio files of Vorthak leaders discussing genocide policies. Written orders for the systematic destruction of entire civilizations. On every world that had suffered under Vorthak rule, people gathered around communication devices to watch the trial of their former oppressors. Many wept as they saw the evidence of crimes they had long suspected, but never been able to prove. The final phase of Operation Reckoning was the establishment of provisional governments on liberated worlds. Admiral Sungmin Jang had been selected to coordinate the transition from Vorthak rule to local self-governance. Our goal is not conquest, he announced to representatives from a dozen species. We want each world to choose its own path forward. But we will not allow anyone to rebuild the systems of oppression that existed under the hegemony. The former tribute worlds were eager to cooperate. They had lived in fear for so long that the sudden freedom felt almost impossible to believe. Human medical ships arrived with supplies and aid for populations that had been deliberately kept malnourished by Vorthak tribute demands. On Kepler 442b, Chang Ho Lee stood in the settlement square as human transport ships landed. He was not looking at the ships, though. He was looking at a small memorial that had been built where his daughter died. Boram Lee Memorial Garden, read the inscription that Admiral Ji-hai Cho had approved. Her courage inspired a galaxy. Around the memorial, children from several species played together for the first time. Their parents watched nervously at first, but gradually relaxed as they realized their children were truly safe now. She would have liked this, Chang Ho said to Hana Park, who had become the colony's new administrator. She always wanted to make friends with the other children, but the Vorthak never allowed different species to mix. Hana nodded, watching a human girl teach a young Zentarian how to build with blocks. The galaxy is going to be different now. Better. The Vorthak survivors were relocated to a single world under human protection. Ironically, they were safer now than they had made anyone else during their reign. Some of the younger Vorthak, those born after the conquest period, began to understand why their empire had fallen. We brought this on ourselves, said recently molted Vorthak Thekvar to his elders. Our ancestors chose cruelty when they could have chosen cooperation. But the older Vorthak refused to accept responsibility. They plotted revenge that would never come, dreaming of a return to power that was impossible now that the galaxy knew their true nature. President Su Young Kang addressed the Galactic Assembly from Earth, speaking to representatives of 47 different species. Her words were broadcast across known space. Humanity has always preferred peace to war, she said, but we will not stand by while the strong prey upon the weak. We will not allow the cruel to destroy the innocent. The galaxy is safer today because everyone now understands this truth. We protect those who cannot protect themselves. In the final accounting, the Vorthak hegemony had lost everything. Their fleet was destroyed. Their government was dissolved. Their leaders faced trial for crimes against sentience itself. Humanity had revealed its true power, but more importantly, it had revealed its true character. They had struck with overwhelming force against military targets while protecting civilians. They had gathered evidence before passing judgment. They had offered mercy to the defeated while ensuring justice for the victims. The child whose death had triggered this reckoning would never. 6 months after the fall of the Vorthak hegemony, the Outer Rim had become a different place. Governor Sung-min Yang walked through the halls of the new Interspecies Council building on Kepler Station, reviewing reports from across the 14 liberated systems. The transition had been smoother than anyone expected. Without the Vorthak draining resources through tribute demands, the former subject worlds were already showing signs of recovery. Trade was flowing freely between species that had been kept isolated for generations. The Zentarians want to establish a permanent embassy on Earth, reported his aide, Minister Yejin Choi. She had been working tirelessly to build diplomatic relationships between all the freed species. Approved, Sung Min said. What about the mining rights dispute on Vorthak 7? Resolved peacefully. The Corellians and the Bendathi agreed to share the system 50-50. No military intervention needed. That was the key to the new order. Problems were solved through negotiation instead of force. The interspecies protection protocols that Sung Min had established made sure that no species could dominate others the way the Vorthak had done. On Kepler 442b, Chang Ho Li knelt beside his daughter's memorial garden, planting new flowers that had arrived on the latest supply ship from Earth. Children from 6 different species played around him, their laughter filling the air where execution weapons had once fired. Papa Chang Ho called 8-year-old Yuki, a Japanese human girl who had become friends with the Zentorian children. Can you help us build a fort? Chang Ho smiled, the first real smile he had managed since Boram's death. Of course. What kind of fort do you want? A space fort, shouted young Krelth, whose green skin marked him as one of the Bendathi refugees who had settled on the colony, with places for all different kinds of kids. As Chang Ho helped the children build their play fort, he thought about how much the galaxy had changed. These children would grow up in a universe where different species worked together, instead of one ruling over others. They would never know the fear that had dominated his generation. Ambassador Ye-Jin Choi stood before the Galactic Assembly on Earth, addressing representatives from 47 different species. Behind her, a holographic display showed the Outer Rim Cooperative's charter, a document that guaranteed the rights of all sentient beings. The cooperative operates on 3 basic principles, she explained. Self-determination for all member species, mutual defense against aggressive powers, and protection of the innocent regardless of their origin. The Assembly voted unanimously to recognize the cooperative as a legitimate government. Even species that had initially feared human military power now supported the new order, seeing how it protected smaller civilizations. In the outer system of former Vorthak space, Admiral Ji-Hai Cho commanded the Outer Rim Defense Fleet from her flagship, the rebuilt Soul's Vengeance. Her ships patrolled the borders, watching for any signs of new threats. Admiral, reported Commander Tae-Jun Park, long-range sensors have detected a probe from the Helix Empire. They seem to be testing our response. The Helix Empire controlled space beyond the former Vorthak territory. They were another aggressive species that enslaved weaker civilizations. Intelligence suggested they might try to expand into the power vacuum left by the hegemony's fall. Send them a message, Ji-Hai ordered. Standard diplomatic greeting, but make sure they can see our full fleet strength when they receive it. The message was polite but clear. Humanity was willing to talk, but any attempt at conquest would be met with the same force that had destroyed the Vorthak. The probe quickly retreated to Helix space. Dr. Wu Jin Nam worked in his new laboratory on Kepler Station, but his research had changed completely. Instead of finding ways to kill aliens, he now studied how different species could work together safely. The atmospheric processors are working perfectly, he reported to Governor Sung Min. Vorthak 12 can now support human, Zentorian, and Bendathi colonies simultaneously. Any health risks from the mixed atmosphere? None detected. In fact, the different species seem to benefit from the biological diversity. The human immune system strengthens when exposed to harmless alien bacteria. This was the kind of science that built civilizations instead of destroying them. Wu Jin often thought about how much more they could have accomplished if the Vorthak had chosen cooperation over conquest centuries ago. On Earth, President Su Young Kang met with Colonel Hyun-Woo Kim in the same underground bunker where they had planned Operation Reckoning. But this meeting was different. They were discussing peace instead of war. The Vorthak survivors are adapting well to their new home, Hyun-Woo reported. The younger generation especially seems to understand why their empire fell. Any security concerns? Minor ones. Some of the older Vorthak still plot rebellion, but they have no resources and no support. The younger ones actually help us watch them. Su Young nodded. Even former enemies could be redeemed if they were willing to change. The key was making sure they never again had the power to hurt innocent people. The war crimes trials had ended 3 months ago. Overlord Krexthul and his senior commanders were found guilty of genocide and crimes against sentience. They would spend the rest of their lives in comfortable imprisonment, kept alive as a reminder of what happened to those who chose cruelty over mercy. But the trials had also revealed something important. Many lower-ranking Vorthak had been horrified to learn about their government's worst crimes. The hive mind had hidden the full truth even from its own people. Chang Ho Li received a letter from Earth, written by a young Vorthak named Thekvar, who had testified at the trials. The alien was trying to learn human languages and customs as a way of making amends for his species' crimes. "I am sorry for what my people did to your daughter," the letter said in careful human script. "I want to help build a galaxy where such things never happen again. Will you teach me how to honor her memory?" Chang Ho showed the letter to Hana Park, who had become the colony's administrator after proving her engineering skills during the reconstruction. "What will you tell him?" she asked. "That the best way to honor Boram is to protect other children," Chang Ho replied. "All children, no matter what species they are." The memorial garden had grown beyond its original borders. What started as a small tribute to one brave little girl had become a symbol of the new galaxy. Diplomats from across known space came to visit it, leaving flowers and toys from their homeworlds. Admiral Sung Ho Choi, now retired from active service, often brought his grandchildren to play in the garden. He would tell them stories about the old days when different species feared each other, and they would laugh because such things seemed impossible now. "Tell us about the war." "Grandpa," his youngest granddaughter always asked. "It was not really about war," he would say. "It was about making sure all children can play safely no matter where they come from." The Outer Rim Cooperative had become the fastest-growing alliance in the galaxy. New species applied for membership every month, attracted by the promise of protection without domination. Trade flourished as former enemies learned to work together. Dr. Hyejin Kwan, the former weapons designer, now led the cooperative's civilian technology program. Her team was developing new medical treatments, agricultural systems, and communication technologies that benefited all member species. "We have completed the Universal Translator Network," she reported to the Council. "Any species can now communicate with any other species in real time." "What about the cultural exchange program?" asked Governor Sungmin, ahead of schedule. "We have exchange students from 12 species attending universities on Earth, and human students learning on 8 different worlds." This was the galaxy that Boram Lee had dreamed of, even if she had never lived to see it. A place where different kinds of people could be friends instead of enemies. General Min Ho Yoon stood before a new class of officer cadets at the Terran Military Academy. Half the students were human, but the other half came from species across the cooperative. They would all learn to defend the innocent together. "Remember," he told them, "our job is not to conquer or rule. Our job is to protect those who cannot protect themselves. We fight so that others can live in peace." The cadets nodded solemnly. They had all heard the story of Boram Lee and understood what they were training to prevent. President Su Young Kang gave her final address to the Galactic Assembly before retiring from politics. She was an old woman now, ready to spend her remaining years in the peaceful galaxy she had helped to create. "When I was young," she said, "the galaxy was ruled by fear. The strong preyed upon the weak and cruelty was mistaken for strength. Today we have proven that cooperation is stronger than conquest, that mercy is more powerful than brutality." She looked out at the assembly, seeing representatives from dozens of species working together. "We did not win this peace through conquest. We won it by showing that there is a better way to live, and we will defend it not through oppression, but through justice." The assembly rose in appreciation, a rare show of unity that would have been impossible under the old order. In the years that followed, the story of the Vorthak War became a legend told across the galaxy, but it was not a story about human superiority or military might. It was a story about justice, about protecting the innocent,